Peace. What's going on, y'all? This is your man Mo, and to my right we have Lady Simone, and we are the With All Due Respect podcast. How you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. This right here, this podcast is a topic that I was trying to avoid. Um, I'm going to speak on the pandemic that's going on right now. I was trying to avoid it because there's so many different theories already. There's so many different opinions, and I'm like, why should we even add to it? Right? We don't know what's true and whatnot. So, but for the fact of the matter that I've been asked on a repeated basis what I thought about it, and have I shared it on our podcast? And of course, my answer was no. I feel the responsibility to do so because with us having a podcast, with us having an opinion that people actually want to hear, I think we're obligated to do so. So that's what
Well,
this is
I
right
got
here.
a question for that. I got a question because honestly, I knew nothing about what we were going to speak about until just now, just like with everybody else. But my question is, do we have to speak exactly on the pandemic? Because, like you say, I'm a big fan of not speaking on things you really are not knowledgeable about in certain sense, but not speaking in the sense on the pandemic of the coronavirus itself. But what about speaking on the fact of we have people that are hurting that do from the pandemic. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
So
well, my stance on it would be my stance, and I would say, however it affects you from a personal standpoint, and we can actually just because with that right there being said, um, within our household, I'm actually the one that's out and about moving. So I see a lot more of the effect that it's taking on the outside world versus my wife here, she watches it from the TV,
yeah,
respectfully.
as far as the coronavirus itself, like I watch that,
Hmm.
but the effects actually on people
Right.
can be seen even through social media.
This is definitely true.
You know what I'm
Definitely
saying?
true.
So like what exactly are your thoughts exactly?
My thoughts on it is I don't think it's important about these conspiracy theories. I don't think it's important about is it real? Is it man made? Is it was it in a lab in China or something of that nature? To me, it doesn't matter if it's real or not. What is real is the effects of it. The
Yes.
fact that people are actually dying, the fact that people are losing their jobs, the fact that there's some jobs that's not going to even open up again,
Yeah.
the fact of the matter that
People are losing their minds.
they're losing their mind, and then also to add to that, there's a new norm we're going to have to get accustomed to.
Yeah.
And well, please go ahead.
And I will add to that, and that pretty much that's exactly what I was saying in the beginning. You know what I'm saying? Like those are all different things that we should highlight because there's a lot of people who are overlooking those things when it comes down to this pandemic. You have people that just thinking coronavirus, coronavirus, coronavirus. They're looking at it from that. And I feel like when you approach it from various angles, you have to look at it of how it's going to affect your life. How, the only thing that's constant is change. That's
Right.
it. You know what I'm saying? So at this point, I feel like it's important for people and individuals to understand that you have to figure out how to adjust, how to change, how to make whatever is going on adjust to your life. And because it's nothing when it's out of your control, the only thing that you still can do is live at this point. You know what I'm saying? You
Correct.
when you have no control over what's going to happen the next day, let alone the next minute, you just have to find the good within that minute. You have to find that, and you only can get that from your source.
And that's something that you've been championing and standing on from the beginning of this podcast. And
Oh
it's
yeah.
a tagline that you created as saying every day will not be a good day, but there's definitely something
Something
good
good.
within that day. And as far as what you just said, adjust. Little quick story. Right before this right here really hit the fan, which my wife, she saw it happening from China because she actually teaches online from home to Chinese kids, and she actually saw the whole thing. So she was telling me about it. I heard her, but I was like, you know what, we'll meet it, head on to where it won't get that bad. I was wrong. So right before this hit America hard, me and my son went on a field trip to Atlanta. We went to a museum, and my oldest son Malik said, "Daddy," and at this museum, let me give a little more detail. They had this big dinosaur
Hmm.
exhibit, real big. And I'm a big fan of dinosaurs. At least I was when I was growing up. And he said, "Dad, you know, what happened to the dinosaurs? Why did they become extinct?" And I said, it's simple, son. They didn't adapt. And I think that's what's going on. My personal opinion, that's what's going on right now. Your new quality of living is in your hands. There's nothing we
Right.
can do about something that we cannot touch or control.
Yeah.
So, what you can control is your state of mind and how you move forward with doing so.
And I would say too with that, because a lot of people will go against. Oh no, well this right here, and I feel like your comfort, where are you comfortable at in life? You know what I'm saying? That adds to the whole thing of people panicking and all these things. You have to be so much at peace and so comfortable that you just know that what's going to happen is going to happen. You can't change that. That's even just like at the sounding of my voice as I speak. It's like whatever is going to happen when I walk out of where I'm at, I'm okay with that because I understand that I have no control over that. When you understand who your source is, and for me it's God. When you understand that you have no control and you're just here to do what it is that you're supposed to do, and then when that time is up, that time is up. So it's no pandemic, it's no hurricane, it's no tornado, it's nothing that can come between you and your source. It's nothing that can come between that. When you understand that, you live a life that's so peaceful, and I feel like sometimes you have to go through things. There's different things that changes your situation. There's different things that change your mindset of how you look at things. But I'm a type of person also to where I don't have to go through. I can see somebody else go through and know, listen, I'm not going to touch that stove. And I've been saying that for years. For years. So it's almost just like I think people have to get to a point to where they're sitting there and stop being selfish. You know what I'm saying?
But you know what? With the fact of being selfish, I think people are really scared. I don't want to say concerned. I think we're past concern. I think people are really scared. You look at this new way of living. You go to the grocery store, now there's a percentage of an occupancy that has to be within the store. And if they reach that amount, you have to actually stand outside 6 feet apart, and for the most part you have a mask on and there's no communication. If there's one cough where most people will say God bless you or excuse you or whatever it is, now they're looking at you as if you have two heads, like, oh my God, what's going on? So even when I was in Walmart a couple weeks ago, I was asking one of the workers there about a product, where was it, and she just looked at me crazy, and I just walked off after she answered it. Well, she didn't actually verbally answered it. She pointed in the direction, and I was just like, wow, this is kind of crazy.
Mhm.
But crazy is what's about to become, unfortunately, our new norm. And another thing that kind of popped in my head with us as being entrepreneurs and our fellow entrepreneurs and just those out there that's on that same journey, the supply and demand factor is really going to be tested at this point right now.
Mhm.
Because you look at it, when it comes to supply and demand, it's going to be solely essentials.
Yeah. And see, and the thing is at this point too, what do people identify as essential? For
Whatever
me,
probably brings them peace.
whatever brings them happiness. And the thing is, what you have to understand, for me, that comes from I've been in a position, and I look at this thing, right? I haven't even mentioned this to you, but I look at it, I'm like, man, was we getting prepped for this? Was we getting prepped? Because people don't realize what it is that other people may be going through. And we went through some times, you know what I'm saying? Some challenging times. If you really think back, months back, years back, we can even say there's been times to where we had to really just deal with the bare essentials. We had
Absolutely.
to deal with just
You
the
speaking of us
minimum
as a family or just
as a
us as people?
family, as
Oh,
a family.
absolutely,
So when you look
absolutely,
back, it's like this
absolutely.
right here, I guess the effects of it is not as punch you in the face as it may be to so many other people. Cause I'm looking back like I know how to adjust and lean and depend on God in just the worst of the worst, but still just keep it moving. Cause I understand that I'm not in control.
And when people ask me, Mo, Marin, how you and your family doing throughout this? When I say absolutely great, I'm not just saying that to
Yeah.
encourage you, because it's the God honest truth. We've we've got so comfortable with ourselves, with being around each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're going on, we got laid off what, March 20th?
Mm-hmm.
And I still go to my part-time job, but that's like 4 or 5 hours. My wife and kids, they're actually in the house. I think my wife might have been out you've been out twice
Yeah.
since you've been laid off due to the corona, and our kids have been out once, and no one is trying to hurt anyone because again, that's a good point that you made. We
Yeah.
very well may be getting ourselves prepped for what's going on. So when I say in response to Mo, how are you and your family doing? When I say great, I promise you, I mean that wholeheartedly.
And that's not to say that it doesn't come without you having days where it's like a little challenging, because I don't want people to ever think that. I think what we have to just keep in mind is that you have to get to a place of peace. Whatever that place of peace is for you, you have to find that, and you have to know and understand that there's nothing that you can do outside of what you can do. And once you understand and realize that there's nothing that you can do outside of that, everything else will flow perfectly. But when you get to a point, you have so many people that are so much in a rush to get
That's true.
to the unknown, when you live it in the unknown and you're not even happy. So even when you get to that point, how you know that's gonna make you happy? There's so many people that's rushing to work, and it's like, dude, you're sitting here in an unknown state and you're not happy, but you rushing to the same place that you screamed to be away from for so many
But I'm gonna tell you
years.
what that is. That's people's normality. Chaos is some people's normality, and being within that chaos and within your normality, somehow or another, if it makes sense, it brings them peace.
But and another thing that I add to that, because I spoke to someone and I told him, I say, the sad truth is that people want to be validated, and social media has built a narrative to where everyone has posted pictures and posted lives that they feel like, if I post this, I'm gonna get this many likes, this person's gonna love me, and that made them feel good, that made them feel validated. Now they're in a space to where you can't get your hair done, your nails done, you can't get that
You
whole
can't get
what
a
beat, like they
and you know
say.
what? And not even to just target the females, the men can get
Oh
their
yeah,
men
not
cannot
just
get
yeah.
their Beijings, which is when they darken the beard or darken your hairline.
Yeah.
You out here looking real. You know what it
You're
is?
looking in your natural state. You can't accept that. And like, if you look at it, the number of photos that has been probably posted on social media
Has
has,
decreased.
yes, has
And you know what's
decreased.
crazy? There was this one guy, Plies, actually said this. He said adversity, only thing adversity does is reintroduces you to yourself. So now you have people, and we're not passing judgment.
Oh no,
We're
not at
just
all.
actually stating what is actually really like right here in
In
front
the
of you.
forefront, what
So
we're looking at.
so even as far as the I guess people was calling it club hopping when I'm going over here and I'm going over here, and all that in the beginning stages was cool because it was bringing people some form of sanity, and it was kind of centering them because if that was their life, as in going out, it was bringing them that like normality
Mm-hmm.
again. And we'll probably keep revisiting that word normality, but there will soon be a new form of it if it hasn't already hit you. So even that, if you notice, that has slowed down. The TikToks have slowed down
Mm-hmm.
because what's happening is reality is starting to set in.
And a lot of people can't deal with their reality, you know. And I think the important thing that people have to understand is that you have to figure out, outside of materialistic things, outside of validation from others, you have to find out what makes you happy. If that's sitting down on on your balcony and just sitting there just thinking, and if it's doing yoga, or if it's taking a walk,
I actually take
you
daily
know,
walks, about an hour walk in
and
the
it
afternoon.
and that's self-care. Like, I saw something where somebody posted in a group of mine that said it was like a video game, a Nintendo Switch, and they put on there, it's self-care is okay. And for some people, that form of self-care comes in so many different angles. Like, if somebody want to play the video games, you can't get upset with that. If that gives them peace during this time, you want to find something that makes you happy. If it's crafting, then you craft. If it's talking, then you talk. If it's walking, then you walk. But we're not in a state right now to where we can judge anybody for whatever makes them happy. You
Absolutely not.
can't do that.
Again, my opinion was asked of me quite a few times, and I was trying to avoid it. But then when someone brought it to my attention, like, well, Mo, you have a podcast, you have an opinion that people actually really want to hear. So therefore, again, you're obligated. You'll be doing us a disservice if you do not make a podcast or an episode on this. So this is our personal stand on it.
Yeah.
Whether you agree with it or not, Again, this is
And
our
what we
opinion.
say is not gold, just as
It's
well
not
as
law.
what
No,
everybody else say is not. And I feel like I think one important thing that I would tell people is find your inner peace. You know what I'm saying? Look in the mirror and find that good within you. You know how I always say you find something good in the day? Because even through this whole thing, there's still good things that's happening. You got a family to
absolutely.
wake up to. I look at my family and I'm able to cook them breakfast. I'm able to cook them dinner. And I get joy out of that just serving my family. And to some people, that may seem crazy, but we never really had time to sit down and I can cook and we're sitting there talking and they're enjoying the food
I'll
and
be honest with you.
you
This is
know,
probably the most time I've ever spent with not just my wife, but my kids, my family as a whole. For my kids to see me multiple hours throughout the day, for them to actually ask me questions that was kind of reserved for a text message or maybe the next morning when I take them to school, I'm actually really enjoying it. And honestly, despite what's going on, and again, not to undermine it because we're very aware of what's
oh
going
yes,
on,
absolutely.
I kind of don't want this pattern that we created within our household to change.
Because
I enjoy
it
going on
draw us
right, and
closer
that's what
together.
adversity and challenges should do. But
Yeah,
again, that's all in your perspective. I literally sit there and watch our from our balcony, we watch the sunset every day.
yeah,
I literally go on an hour walk, may it be listening to music, may it be making phone calls or emails or text messages that I need to do. I literally enjoy that sitting there, being myself around my kids, and being myself might be a lot around other people. For my family, they totally understand. It's to the point where when I curse, my 3-year-old, and I don't curse at anyone, just in the midst of the conversation. My 3-year-old daughter will actually say, "Daddy, don't say that word."
yeah.
And again, it's just us just having a good time
Having a good time.
and making the best of
Out of your
what's
si and that's the thing I said, and that's why I said I think it coulda came back from when you really think about it, getting prepared and prep. You know what I'm
absolutely,
saying? And when you're prepped and prepared, you know, for life, you gotta look at it like, don't take anything for granted. You know, everything is leading up to something.
absolutely,
So my biggest thing that I would love people to understand is you're more than enough. You know, it's so cliche to even say like, and people are like, oh well, this no, you're literally more than enough. You are beautiful. Do not, and I told you this yesterday, you cannot sit here and go by the standards of the world because the standards of the world will always have you looking in that mirror and not liking something about yourself. Now, yes,
not
you got
loving
to look
yourself.
at yourself and understand that every piece of you is beautiful. And you got to understand, I don't care if it's a big body, if it's a small body, if it's a whatever type of body you have, understand this you are living so that body has the ability to maintain something to keep you here. What you do from there is up to you, but you can't beat yourself up so much because of what society want us to look like, what society want us to do, how what society want us to post. We got to cut that out. Look for the love within you. When you find that inner peace and that inner love, your whole world change. It's a shift that happens. It's a shift that happens.
Absolutely. You got to actually be able to appreciate your current state in order to get to your next
Yep.
place. You never saw nobody at their job complain and kick and scream about their pay and then their superior actually granted them a raise. It doesn't happen like that. So we're going to actually wrap this episode up right here. Don't allow the media to dictate your views. I'm not sitting there saying to not pay attention because everything they're saying is not false and everything that they're saying is not true. So it's going to take you to actually pick apart and pick and choose what it is that you would like to digest in the midst of them doing what they're doing because they're doing their job. They're really doing their job. And just because actually what's going on, in my opinion, again, this is what I feel is going to happen. They're gradually opening up the government. I mean, excuse me, the country right now. And I think what's going to happen is because people have been quarantined for the last month, 6 weeks, 2 months, however it may end up being, they're going to rush out. They're going to rush out. They're going to go back to doing what they enjoy doing, whatever that is. And then 3 weeks, maybe a month, reality is going to sit back in because of this learned behavior that you adopted for the last 2 months is going to kick back in. Like, hold up, this person coughed. Or it's going to be every other seat at the movie theater or wherever the case might be. So Again, I'm a little concerned about what the end of the year is going to hold as fourth quarter and just everything leading up. But again, do not allow the media to dictate. I personally think the corona is a real thing. Everything around it, though, is seeming to be bigger than what's the root of everything that's going on because of the media,
And a
and they're
lot of
doing their
times
job.
and a lot of times we won't understand. And I mean, you look at life, there's a lot of things you don't understand. You know what I'm saying? So like for me, most like the I would say most, but all of my life, is living by faith and not by sight. So and when you really dig deep into that, for me, what that looks like and what that means is that, I have to live each life. I live a faith walk every day. Every day. From the time when I wake up to the time that I lay down, because I don't know what's going to happen the next minute. And when you live in that type of way, you don't think about everything that's going on. You don't think about that. You only think about and understand the things that you can change and the things that you cannot. You just got to learn how to just let it go and let it flow, because at the end of the day, and I'll end with this, you can only do what you can do. And 9 times out of 10, when it's out of your control and you sit back and let things pan out the way it's supposed to pan out, and you know without a shadow of doubt that you're a good person, you got love in your heart, you doing things without ill intent, you watch. Whatever you put out in this universe is what's going to come back to you.
It
So you got
actually
to
has
always
to.
remember that.
There's no other way. It has to come back.
Yeah.
And I think what it is, and this will be my last point again, I think when it comes down to that, people look for instant gratitude, instant results, and that's not reality. But
Hmm.
y'all, check this out. We are the With All the Respect
Yes, yes,
podcast.
yes.
I'm your man Mo, and that right there was Lady Simone.
Lady
Could y'all please
Simone.
check out our Mo's Monday Moment that we drop every Monday? We got some new episodes of Aunt Bertha coming up. Y'all just stay
Yes.
tuned. Even in the midst of chaos, we are still working. We are definitely fine tuning everything it is that we're doing. We will not leave y'all without. All right. Again, y'all enjoy your time. Be safe. We are the With All the Respect podcast.